Hello, my name is BJ Paris. Welcome to Tapping Into His Treasures. How is everybody? I'm doing well. Boy, it was nice to see the graduations. I didn't think we were going to get to see any during the pandemic. But, of course, there were smaller versions of what would have been otherwise, but they were nice. I saw them on TV and I saw them on the internet, Facebook. And I especially enjoyed the graduation of my home church in Baltimore and their high school graduates. I was so proud of those kids. Oh, I'm telling you, they just did us all proud. So, anyway, how's everybody doing? I'm still quarantined. I don't go any farther than my front porch or just down the road. I take my daily walk down to the main road and come back. I do that twice. So I hope you're all doing well and that everybody's staying safe and healthy. I'd like to share a testimony with you today. It's kind of funny. I had a really funny one, but I'm going to save that till next time. All right. So, one day last week, I said to my friend, pardon me, that I'm old, but I have a gift of an eternally youthful spirit. That very night, my pastor, after the Wednesday night service, I think it was, after his message, he talked about old people having an abundance of doctrine and memories and spiritual treasures in their soul, and that they, listen, here's the statement right here, that they may die of old age, but they die young. They die young, quotations. Wow, if that wasn't a confirmation of what God gave me that morning, I don't know what is. I just thought, and it's true, it's so true. I don't care how old the person is inside, he's young if he has the Lord Christ in his heart. So, I have some news. Many of you know how many times that I have said, at least a dozen times on this show, I've shared with you, that God's been telling me for the last few years that he's going to do something new in my life. And I thought, like, well, what could be new? I thought I had one foot in the grave. What could possibly be new? But he was persistent. He just didn't stop. Remember I told you that when I was a kid, my street was off of Newfield Avenue. Well, in my dreams, I always found myself on Newfield Avenue, and that was part of his prediction, something new. Well, anyway, guess what? He's doing something new. I am going to be moving to Pennsylvania to become a part of the church there, which is an indigenous church, or a branch church ministry of my head church in Baltimore. So what do you think of that? God is full of surprises. I'm a little hoarse today, bear with me. God is full of surprises. I mean, really, friends, really. I mean, who at my age would want to undertake a moving project? You know, everybody knows it's one of the biggest things in life is moving. And I don't anticipate it at all. But I know that God is calling because he's told me over and over, giving me confirmation. So, whatever, I have to obey him. I've been obeying him all my life, and I'm not going to stop now. So I don't imagine I'll take everything with me, so I'll be getting rid of a lot of stuff. So look me up on the message board to get rid of some of this stuff on Facebook. Okay, so let's get on with our theme. The theme today is the reason we were created. We were created to live a higher life in Christ and not a lower life. Lower life is led by the devil. So we were created to follow a higher life. We were created to fellowship with God the Father. When a married couple decide to have a family, it's because they want to broaden their union and to enjoy the fellowship of sons and daughters. They want to give love and to receive love. And that is the way it is with the Father. Excuse me, I can't change my paper here. Okay. That's the way it is with the Father. So when God created men and women, he designed them differently. We can all attest to that. Physically, men have muscles that women do not have, and they are stronger. Women have feminine characteristics. They are more delicate. They are much more sensitive and emotional, as men tend to skim over matters that are important to women. Women need to take time to explain things. Too much time. Too much time, I'm afraid. As men want to get right to the point, I can tell you that when I'm trying to relate something to my sons, I always have to preface the story with another story to lead them up to the climax. So I don't know how many times my youngest would get frustrated and yell out with his hands flying, "Mom, would you get to the point?" So many of you can identify with that or relate to that, I'm sure. But God made us different on purpose. He made us so that men would complement women and that women would complement men. And in doing so, they would rely on each other and appreciate one another. It's a beautiful design when you think about it. If anybody's listening from Greater Grace World Outreach Ministries, Pastor Butch Vietor did, not at the church from the pulpit, but at the wrap one day from the pulpit over in Fellowship Hall. He taught the most phenomenal lesson about the differences between men and women that were designed by God. And if any of you could get a hold of that recording from probably in the early 90s, do it, because it's fresh. And it's just as good for today as it was back then. Pastor Butch Vietor, early 90s, from the differences between men and women from Fellowship Hall. All right. So we should all take time to meditate on our Heavenly Father. The Bible says that He is our refuge and our strength and our ever-present help in time of trouble. It says that He gives sight to the blind, the spiritually blind, and the other blind too. And He sets the captives free. And we are all captive before Christ. We are all captive to everything that's around us, everything that's natural and unspiritual, before we come to know God. Well, He releases us from that captivity when we accept Christ to be our personal Lord and Savior. Just as a bird is set free from a cage, when they let the bird out of the cage, he flaps his wings and flies away. He's free. And it's the same way. So God says, "I will look at a man who trembles at my word and reveres my commands." Did you pick up on that word look? God will look on them. In other words, He's focusing in on them. There may be 10 men and only one has Christ as their Savior and Lord of their life. God's going to focus in on that one. Don't you want to be that 1 in 10? Well, of course you do. But in order to obey, we have to follow some instructions. Christ humbled Himself. He left heaven and came into our world. Can you imagine Him leaving that beautiful heaven that we can't even imagine it in our finite minds? He left heaven to come into our world, to live with us, and He suffered and died here. We should be eternally grateful for that, always. Sadly, most of the people in the world have been deceived. Deceived how? By whom? By a counterfeit. Satan, he's a counterfeit. He's a counterfeit being, and he sabotaged the lives of many, many people. And if you are in that category today, you can change that around by giving God a chance. But just give Him a chance. Perhaps some of you have grown up believing that the lies that portray Christians as being goody two-shoes. I've heard that way back in the 50s, for goodness sakes, that Christians are dull and boring. But the opposite is true. You shouldn't be afraid to test the waters for yourself. Tell me something. When spirit world manifestations are shown on TV, many of you don't have a problem watching those things and believing those things. I believe in them myself. I've seen that stuff years ago. I read the Bible. I read what it says in the Old Testament about the supernatural things that happened when Moses went before Pharaoh. It's right in the book of Genesis. So they're true. But they are coming from the underworld. When they're shown on TV, it's to draw people's attention, to get them all excited and things like that. And doesn't make them fake if they're true. So why is, my question to you, why is it so easy to believe in all that supernatural stuff and so difficult to believe in the higher things, the things that God, the things of God in heaven? The answer is because the devil has conditioned men and women to put up barriers when they're around God's people, to label them and to ignore everything that they share with you. Some of you already know this, but are nonchalant and won't deal with it. You know who you are. It happens all over the place. Well, Jesus, right now, today, is bidding you to come and to stand by his side. A life in Christ offers so many pluses, whereas a life outside of Christ offers only temporary happiness and temporary security. God gave us a roadmap for salvation, which is the Bible. And we can use that same roadmap to guide us in our everyday lives. Can you imagine going on a road trip without a GPS or a road map? I tried to do that a number of years ago and forgot my GPS. And I came to a fork in the road, way out in the boonies. I didn't know which road to navigate. I kept flagging the few cars that drove by to ask if I was heading in the right direction, and no one would even slow down to help me. Here I am, this tiny little thing, elderly woman, and they wouldn't even stop to help me. So I finally went further into the road and hollered out to a woman. I was halfway in the road. I'm flagging her down like that, begging her for help, and she finally stopped. And I explained my predicament, and she told me exactly what to do. It was simple, just stay on that same road. It would take me to a certain route. So I just used that as an example. Without a GPS or map, it's no different for those who refuse to pay attention to the map that God gave them to take through life. They're just ignoring that map and trying to navigate roads on their own. It just doesn't work. So have you ever had someone try to get you to taste a certain food and you were squeamish about tasting that certain food, yet you finally did, and your face lit up and you were so surprised that you actually liked it? I'm sure, because that happens all the time. Well, that is how it is with people who steer away from Jesus, from God's word and from his ways. I remember one time quite a few years ago when I invited someone to go to church with me, and he passed on my invitation, saying, listen to what he said, that he was afraid he would enjoy it. What do you think about that? But he said it in a nutshell. He was afraid he would enjoy it. So stop and think about that. If someone invited that same person to go to a party, let's say, or the person would the person accept and go? Of course he would. Of course he would. So can you see how those barriers are up? Because there's a supernatural force behind those barriers, of course. Why would he go to one and not the other? Ta-da. Because Satan was influencing him not to go to church, my friend. Satan was influencing him not to go to church. And that's the reason. When you refuse to give Jesus any consideration at all, it is costing you blessings. Honest. Trust me. Many blessings, many wonderful blessings. The only certain thing on this earth is that we are all going to die someday. Not to be negative, it's just the truth. We all know that. I'm not making up a story. We're all going to die. And don't let the devil lie to you by telling you that you are going 6 feet under and no place else. I hear people say that all the time. My own mother used to say that before she finally accepted Christ at 87 years old. So no, the truth is that your soul will live forever in one of two places, heaven or hell. There was a time in my life when I didn't believe in hell, and God sent me there. God sent me there. I'm not the only one that he has sent there. He has sent many people. They are mostly pastors and evangelists who may have needed to see with their own eyes so that they could preach on it effectively. So there I was. I didn't see any fire. I didn't see any flames. I wasn't in that part of heaven. I didn't see the golden streets. I didn't see the beautiful things. Well, that was heaven. I'm sorry. We're talking about hell now. I'm sorry. When I went into hell, I did go to heaven too, and that's why I mixed up on my party. He sent me to heaven. I was in a different place in heaven. I didn't see all those beautiful things. I was in, they say Paul speaks of the third heaven or the seventh heaven. I was in the other section of heaven. And I saw people there, and I saw an amazing tree, but I didn't see the beautiful parts. In hell, when I went there for that brief time, it may have been 2 minutes, but it seemed like 2 eternities. And I didn't see the flames in hell. But I did see the black hole, the black darkness that was blacker than any black as the ace of spades, 1,000,000 times worse than that. I'm looking at my black microwave, 1,000,000 times blacker than that. And you had that feeling of falling, that you were falling through the atmosphere in hell. And the worst part of it all was the absence of the presence of God. That was so monumental, I will never forget it. It was so horrific that I couldn't speak of it for 35 years. Because in the beginning, when I first tried to think about it, I would go into hysterics. And I had to wait 35 years before God released me to speak of it without going into hysterics. So I'm just bringing this all up to say, you are either going there or you're going to God's beautiful heaven as far as your soul, and your soul is alive. What better time to give these thoughts some consideration than now, during this pandemic, when biblical history is playing out in front of us right now. It's the time to think about these things. So, excuse me. So if you haven't been paying any attention to the Lord, yet you've been asking him over and over and over for things and he doesn't seem to be answering you, you may want to consider becoming one of his children and treasuring a relationship with him, and see if he doesn't start answering your prayers more once you become one of his. You know, I used to tell this story on my show years ago, that when Christmas comes, like mom and dad, they buy gifts for their children, as any mom and dad would do. But do they buy gifts for the kids next door whom they love? They love the kids next door and the family next door or down the street. But do they buy Christmas gifts for them or birthday gifts the way they do their own family? It's the same with God. God does for his children what he doesn't do for everybody else in the world. And if you've heard that cliche in years past, we're all God's children, it ain't so. Not so, people. God's children are those who receive the gift that Jesus gave to us when he died on that cross to save us from hell, but we have to reach out. Where's a gift? Here's a gift. Here's my cell phone. I wanted to give my cell phone to somebody sitting right here next to me as a gift. Is it gonna belong to him just by my handing it to him? What does he have to do? He has to reach out and take it from me in order for it to belong to him, to become his possession. No different. So I'm just admonishing you to do that today. You can do it next week if you want, but if you put it off, you're not likely to do it next week. Do it today, after the show, please. And enter into that wonderful relationship with him, and he will transform your life. Little by little by little. Boy, it's really something else. It's a metamorphosis, for sure. So ask the Holy Spirit to help you to pray effectively. Ask him to help you to focus on your prayer life. Exercise faith, the faith of Jesus. Ask him to. We all have a measure of faith when we enter into that. We have a measure of faith, but ask him to increase your faith. Not the quantity, but the quality. Ask him. Believe that you will be granted the answer to your prayers before you even pray. Become familiar with God's promises in the Bible. An old pastor friend of